This is my 2020 Norco Optic, and for the last few months, it's served me pretty well. Before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified about future content.
So I've really enjoyed riding this bike. I've come to the realization that it's just not enough travel to suit my riding style. This has 125 millimeters of suspension travel in the rear and 140 up front. So I've been searching around for a bike that has a little bit more suspension travel that's going to suit the riding that I do. So I decided to go with the 2020 Intense Primer. This thing has 140 millimeters of travel in the rear, and we bumped the fork travel up to 150 in the front. So I think this is going to be the perfect amount of travel for me, as it's more than I had before, but it's not so much that it's going overkill. Now most everything is going to be compatible between the two frames, so this should be a pretty straightforward build. I'm going to walk you guys through the whole process, and hopefully you guys can learn a thing or two about doing custom frame-up builds.
I'm going to get this process started by tearing down the Norco. I'd also like to start by saying that the process I'm about to show you is designed for maximum efficiency. There are a lot of ways to do a custom trail bike build, but this is the process that I found to be the most efficient. Once all the parts are taken off the Norco, I'm going to start building a new bike with the fork installation first. Make sure to grease the headset cups and bearings before putting it all together. This will keep water and dirt from getting in and prevent creaking from the headset in the future. Once everything is tightened down, I'll do a quick rotation test to make sure that the bearings are smooth and don't bind. Next, I'm going to run a new shifter cable through the shifter, and then test the function to make sure the cable doesn't jam. Once the new cable is in, it's time to run new housing. Luckily, this bike has guide tubes inside of the frame, which make routing the new housing super easy. Next, I'm going to mount the rear derailleur, route the housing through the chainstay, and cut the housing to length. Now I can run the shifter cable through the housing and mount it to the derailleur. Cable tension does not have to be precise at this point, but make sure to pull it tight before clamping it down. Next, I'm going to throw on the brakes. The front brake was already mounted to the fork, and I had previously installed the rear brake as it needed a longer line, so we really just need to mount the levers here. After that, I'm going to throw on the cranks. These need to be really tightened down, so don't be afraid to crank on them with the wrench. Next, I'm going to install the wheels. Once the wheels are on, I can get to installing the chain. I decided to go with a brand new black XX1 chain, so it'll need to be sized right out of the box. There are a few ways to size a chain, but I prefer to just run it through the rear derailleur on the smallest cog of the cassette and then determine how many links I'll need to remove to get rid of the slack. Another upgrade I decided to do was switch to the 1-Up composite pedals. These things have gotten pretty good reviews, and I needed them to be black as my other pedals were lime green, and I don't really think that would go well with this new color scheme. Next up, I'm going to align the brake calipers. This can be a tricky task. My best piece of advice here is just take your time and make small adjustments as you go. Once the brakes are aligned, I like to move on to the rear derailleur tune. I always try to just get the tune close when the bike is in the stand, and then do my final adjustments on the initial test ride, as the tune can change quite a bit once you get out on the bike and actually get riding. At this point, we won't be needing the upright repair stand anymore, and we can switch to a floor stand. The next step is to install the dropper post. Start by routing the cable housing through the frame and then attaching the housing to the base of the seat post. From here, we need to size the housing to the correct length. This will be dependent on how much seat post insertion you will require, so there is no set length. Once the housing is sized, we need to run the cable through the lever and install the cable anchor at the base of the seat post. final step here is to clamp down the seat post, mount the lever to the bar, and then test the function of the post. Next, it's time to align the bars and set the position of the controls. I also decided to add some color to this build with these red ODI Elite Pro grips. The final step of the process is to do a check on all the bolts and make sure we didn't miss anything, and then do a quick test ride. So here it is, my new 2020 Intense Primer. I'm really happy with the way this turned out, and I think it'll be the perfect, well-rounded trail bike that I was looking for.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this build process. I cannot wait to get out and ride this thing. I'm so excited about it. So I'm gonna go get my riding gear on and meet you guys down at the trailhead.
So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video and maybe learned a thing or two about custom trail bike builds. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified about future videos. And hey, let's ride again next week.